Are we allowed to curse on our channel?
I curse like a sailor,
Good, because
so hopefully we
I
can.
curse so.
I could ask, why have you come here this afternoon?
Hi everyone, I'm Alexis.
Hi, I'm Christy.
And we are your average sisters. We're not saying it at the same time. We're not.
Oh.
No, we're not doing that because we are in.
Okay, that's so cringy.
That's very cringy. So today, right, for our first video, we thought that we could actually do Bridgerton.
So it's gonna be like a review of the series and like of the books as well. So it's gonna be like what's different from in the series than in the books, and just like a review of the whole thing.
And it's not like an in-depth analysis. I think it's just like we have some talking points. We're going to talk about what we liked, what we enjoyed, what we didn't like, what could have been done better, what like just what we, thought was really good about it.
The book and the series, the basic gist of it remained the same, even though it was like really different. It's about Daphne, this young woman who is now emerging into society, like she is trying to find a husband, and she's going to all these social events and whatever, like she's out there and she's socializing with the town or whatever, right? She's finding it hard to find a husband. It's hard for her to find a husband. There were different reasons in the book than in the series, but basically it's hard for her to find a husband. In comes the Duke of Hastings, and he is friends with her older brother Anthony. They went to the same college, and he ends up meeting Daphne, and they decided to form like this faux courtship, where he would be like courting her, but not really,
like like a fake. That's the word that we use a lot, a ruse.
A ruse. Yeah. Then they of course ended up falling for each other, and then he basically defiled her. Well, he did defile her, and he had no choice but to marry her, even though he told her, well, I can't have children, but he had no choice but to marry her. And then she found out later on, after they got married, that after some very, after a lot of love scenes, both in the books and the movies, she then finds out, after a very long time, that he basically lied to her, that he could have children, but he just didn't want to have children for whatever reason. They reconciled, and happily ever after, basically. Those are like the similarities, I would say, that were in the books and in the series, because other than that, everything is different. Like in the books, it was like point A, B, C, D, and then in the series it was point A and then like point A, point 2,
like when you're in
and then like B, and then like
I just want to like say period dramas, especially if they're like romantic based, I live for them. I live for them. Like I am very, very, very biased when it comes to that. Like I'm super, super biased.
Putting that aside, putting our biasness, is that a word? Our biasness, our biasness. Putting our biasness aside, I just don't feel like, okay, putting our bias aside. And that aside, this was a really, really great series. Like, it was really well executed, really well done, and in contrast to the book, I think that they did a really good job, and the book in itself was really great too. So so I would definitely
watch
say
it. Just because the topics that we talk about as well, they're very serious topics, and I think that everyone should form their own opinion on these topics. You know what I mean? A lot of serious conversations came about from this, but we have to remember that this is meant to be like a fun show. It was not, I don't think they meant it to be like this has to be like historically accurate. It was meant to be a fun show that like we can watch, just seeing like love and romance. And you should know like with most romantic like movies
in the romance genre,
it's always like exaggerated.
There's always that kind of love at first sight, I can't do without you kind of love, and that's just how it is.
It's not meant to be like
genre,
we're gonna see like how much ever years of them courting each other or whatever. I think that like the casting was really well done, right? Because I loved Phoebe, right? I loved Regé. I thought he was so good.
I think they really brought the series alive. Like they did
like their facial expressions. When I was saying Phoebe, I think that I felt every single thing that Phoebe was feeling.
Like when she started to fall in love with the Duke and you could see it on her face, I was like, oh my god, I love this man.
So I think like the casting was really well done. My only thing with this is that when I first saw Phoebe, I was like, wow, she looks really young. And then I saw Regé, I was like, wow, he looks really old.
Oh, he looks
yeah.
old.
Like, they made her look really, really young. Because I was like, wait, hold up.
And in the books, she was 21 and he was like 28, I believe.
Sorry. Another theme that I loved in this was the family theme with the Bridgertons, because we come from a big family, you know, so like we know how close it is to be with your family, how important family is, and etc. So I think that was well executed.
And granted, this was a different era, but still they did it so well.
Like even,
you know, they would like
Anthony, who was like,
they would eat at
who was
the
like
same...
really, you know, he could tell that he was like pushing himself away, but he was still with his family. But
family comes first. His duty, his responsibilities come first, you know, to his family. So. And I guess that's years of just being in
and like
that
having
family,
such,
you know. So I think they did a
and
really
having
good
such
job,
like a great upbringing, because like Reggae's character Simon, he didn't have a great upbringing, and he comes from like, I think he had like a higher standing in like social standing in society. And you know, the mom, she was so nice. She was such a great actress. I love her.
She's so great.
I was like, oh my gosh, that reminds me of...
she was amazing.
I'm like, oh my gosh, that reminds me of mommy. like being so supportive and nice, you know, like
yeah. But in the book, she was actually a lot different.
Like mean?
And I guess no. Like, the books were just completely different. And this is what I was saying in the beginning. Other than the general plot, you know, everything else was different. All the characters were different. Like, literally everything else was different. So the mom, she was actually... Okay, so you see how in the series, Miss Featherington, she was like pushing her daughters out there to get a husband, introducing them to everyone. That's how she was. Like, she like made lists of all like the eligible bachelors for her from like since 2 years ago, like when she first started in the town or whatever. She was very pushy. She was like, yes, you need to get a husband, and not just to her, but to her boys as well. Like, she was very, very... She was a little more stern, but like not stern as in... It's kind of like a playful stern, you know, but you know, it's different than like the soft-spoken, kind of supportive, kind mother they portrayed in the series, I believe. Yeah, everyone in the books were completely different, in my opinion, than in the series. Like, literally everyone's personalities, everything was just completely different. So Daphne and Simon, he was probably not black. I mean, but anyways, they were completely different. I think that Daphne in the series, in my opinion, she seems a little more regal, a little more elegant, sophisticated, you know. She was like, she seemed more like a mom in my opinion too. Like, in any book, it was completely different in my opinion. I kind of like pictured her as Eloise in the series, because Eloise was very quirky, and she was very like funny, and I just got more of Eloise in the book than I did in, like, you know. Simon I did not like book Simon. I'm very sorry. He was just a complete asshole, and I loved how different he was in the series. I was so happy with what they did with him in the series, because like, and he was so toxic. Like, he was... I saw people saying that he was so toxic in the series. If you read the book, he was worse. Like, this man was like a whole different level. So he was very if she would even mention his father, he would like storm off and walk off on her and shit.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, sir, she is not, like, she doesn't know.
Not sir.
Like, she doesn't know your backstory, and you refuse to tell her. Even when they got married, like, he refused to tell her, you know. So like, how is she supposed to know what subjects to broach and what subjects not to, you know? And he was just very... oh my goodness, Alexis, you know how I feel about objectifying women. And there was this scene in the book where, like, after she found out he had lied to her, and she went into another room, she moved all her stuff to another room, and he went into their room, or what was their room, and he was like, where is my wife, you know? And in his mind, he was like, she should be here, and she's my wife, and anywhere I want her, she should be, and I could do with her what I please, and all that. And I'm like, excuse me. I just didn't like him. I preferred series Simon. He was way better. Colin too. He was actually... I preferred book Colin. I love Colin. In the books, he was
well, that's so weird because I thought Colin's character in the series was like really boring.
Boring, right? In the series, he was kind and he was sweet, you know, and he was nice and all that. But in the book, he was like sarcastic and really funny, and he and Daphne were actually really close. So, but overall, I think I prefer the series character than the book.
Check for the series characters.
There were a lot of characters that were in the series that were not in the books. The Queen was one. When I first watched the series, I was like, oh, she's kind of annoying, like especially in certain scenes. But it was like a good annoying, especially like when you read the book and she's not there. So you're like, I kind of miss the Queen, you know? Like I think her.
That's where like it falls short for me because I didn't read the book and nor am I going to read the book. For me, just seeing her there without like experiencing the book, she was just annoying for me. Like she wasn't fun, you know. Lady Danbury as a strong black lead, amazing.
Yeah, she was.
And loved her.
In the books, it was completely different. Like she was such a minor character. I think I liked what they did in the series with Lady Danbury. I love how close they were. I love their relationship and everything. Eloise, Bridgerton. She was my favorite. Like from the get-go, she was my favorite. I just
feminist icon. Feminist.
It's not just about the feminism. It's about her, like her personality and everything. I just love it.
Yeah.
Like,
I loved Eloise. I loved her scenes. I thought that she was not meant for this world, for that world. Like being the awkward outside one, it made her so much more relatable and it made her character so much more likable, like in my opinion.
And I loved her relationship with Benedict. Like she and Benedict, I loved it.
Yeah.
And that's the equivalent in the book to Colin and Daphne, because that's how they were in the book. Like they were very close, and like that's what I got. Like when I was reading the book, I was like, oh, this kind of reminds me of Eloise and Benedict, you know.
I did not like that they revealed Lady Whistledown so quickly. I did not like it at all. Yeah. I think that should have been saved until the end. Like until Hyacinth had her time end, okay? Like
no, it was revealed in the books, in Colin's books. Because
that was the fourth book or something.
It was him and that was the third book, and it was him and Penelope. Oh. And yeah,
you know, I honestly I didn't even like Penelope as Lady Whistledown either.
The series, it was way too obvious to me. I was like, from the first time we were introduced to her, I was like, she is Lady Whistledown. It's so obvious. Like when they were like, all she does is just sit down and read. They they were like pointing, like hinting to her. They were like, all she does is just like sit down and read and sticks her nose in books and stuff. And they were trying to like isolate her from the rest, you know. So it was quite clear that she was different from everybody else. So I don't know. I just got that.
Some of these scenes were very boring and drawn out. But like just like some of the scenes, right? So how we're gonna talk about this is like I'm gonna talk about what was boring and drawn out to me, and then she's gonna talk about why it wasn't in the book and then why it was necessary, right? So for me, a lot of Anthony's scenes was boring. Like I can't trust that. Marina, the other black girl who was supposed to be rooting for, like her scenes were so boring.
At the beginning, I was like, oh yeah, she's gorgeous. Yes. Great. And then it just kind of went down.
I thought that her story of her being pregnant made it boring. I thought like Colin was boring.
I think that these scenes were necessary. I actually like that they put them in, especially after having read the book, because when I first watched the series, I was like, oh my god, like where is Simon and Daphne? Just show me Simon and Daphne. That's all I want to see, you know. But then after reading the book, and the book is solely focused on Simon and Daphne, there are no other like side plots, no other.
Oh my gosh.
But in the series, it was like all of these side plots and all of these things, and I thought it was nice for them to give us a break from Simon and Daphne at times.
Next thing I have on my list is the scene with Simon and Lady Danbury. So we know that this is like a reimagined world, right? Where black people weren't slaves. They were actually like had titles, they were royalty, you know. And that was like touched on a bit when Lady Danbury and Simon were talking, he would say, I'm just gonna paraphrase, he's basically saying like the queen married the king and it elevated their status in life, right? And from like what I believe the specific word he used was novelties to like titles with like dukes and whatever,
Yeah.
you know? If this is explaining like how all of this happened, like, you know, slavery and shit didn't happen, we got a problem because
Yeah,
I just think it was, for me,
in no world would it happen like that.
I just want to know if for me it was so weird. Like, I think if we had just like not mentioned it, just be like, this is a whole new reimagined world, I think that would have been fine. Like, I would have been fine with that. But that scene was so weird to me. Are we thinking? Are we giving like white people props to think that like they can just like disregard their racism, like especially back in that day? To this day, they can't even do that. But back in the day, they expected them to do that. Come on. I mean, I get like we said, Shonda Rhimes wants to include the diversity and stuff like that, so like I totally get it. But honestly, like watching it for someone who loves period dramas, it was just amazing watching it and seeing like Black people portrayed in these characters, because I would watch stuff like from Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice, Emma. I would watch like Outlander and all of these like series and movies, but I could never imagine myself in these roles or imagine myself like in these books that I read, because they weren't considered, period, you know? So that's why like seeing something like this, it's just beautiful, like seeing myself portrayed in these characters. But
especially with like these strong female Black leads like Lady Danbury and Queen.
Exactly.
Which is really great to see.
But it sucks like how they explained it. I think that they should have just not talked about it at all. Just be like, this is what this is what's happening, period. That's it, you know? Like, this is a reimagined world. It's not specifically, like I said in the beginning, this is not like historically accurate, you know? So Daphne and Simon finding friendship and then finding love, and how soon it happened, how soon like them getting married and stuff happened. So I saw a lot of like controversial posts online saying that like it just wasn't believable, like how quickly they fell in love. Yeah, but I do want to say like, one, gonna be like hard to put all of that, like everything that was in the book into one season when there's so much topics that they have to cover.
In the book, he was only like fake courting her for like a couple weeks.
I think, like, personally, I think that they did the friendship to love thing really well, right? We're not even talking about the books, we're talking about like the series. I think that they did the friendship to love thing really well, because I believed that like they started off, like he said it started off as attraction for him, and for her it was like you know?
Yeah, like he's so arrogant.
So exactly, he's probably, I hear she was like, he's hot, but like he's an asshole. So you know, I think like it was believable for me because I'm like a true romantic, right? So if anybody breathes too hard, I'm in love with you. So that's why I see the friendship to love thing believable, because it's like that seems like the type of timeline it'll take me to like be friends with someone and fall in love with them, you know?
And then, as we mentioned earlier, this is a romance, so it will be exaggerated, you know? It has to be. They can't spend like 5 hours just like on their relationship alone, you know? It was even more believable in the books, in my opinion. Like there were more conversations with them,
even though we didn't like book Simon.
Yeah, and we didn't really particularly like book Daphne. I think that, you know, that limited amount of time that they had, I think that they did a good job of showing the progression, you know.
I was very apprehensive about doing Bridgerton for our first video, because I just, like, I knew the rape scene was like a very, very like controversial topic. I don't think that I'm comfortable talking about stuff like this, even though like I want to start a conversation on like these sort of topics, but comfortable in a sense, like, one, it's triggering for so much people, two, I don't want to say the wrong things and then like everyone's like upset with me, you know, like, because I voice something that maybe I'm not as knowledgeable on, like a topic that I'm not as knowledgeable on. I'm so open to like receiving knowledge and like you know, being educated on a topic, but I don't want it to happen in like a nasty way where someone's like yelling at me.
And I think that this is the problem, you know, like there are so many people who like take such an offense, and this is a topic that you should take a high offense to. I'm not disputing that, but people who don't really understand, because there are a lot of people who don't think it's a rape scene, and educate them. Don't say, oh, you're so stupid, and like, don't berate them. Educate them, show them why it is a rape scene, you know. And this is the beauty of our time right now. Like, we can start conversations about these topics, you know. This is why I think that all these people who are on Twitter or Instagram or whatever social media saying don't watch Bridgerton, you know, because of that rape scene. Like, no. Like,
I mean, like, I feel like if it's triggering you know, then I understand.
No, that's different.
But if it's like you're just saying don't watch it, like, just because, I think that's really unfair to like other viewers, you know.
Unfair, like. Let people watch it, let people
and
understand,
formulate their own opinions on like, you know, these topics. So like, again, so like they progress, like in the series it progresses, like as we spoke about before, being friends with benefits, like, or like the 1813 version of being friends with benefits, and it grows into like attraction,
and you could tell from you know, that period of them like being friends to when it like, grows into more, how innocent she was. Like, she didn't know anything.
Like, he had to like, you know, he had to tell her about like touching herself, you know what I mean? So like we said, it's like Daphne, and we see that because when you first see her, as I said, I had to like Google her age. When you first see her, you're thinking like, this girl is so young, and then here's Simon, who looks like,
I thought she was 16. Yeah. I thought she was meant to be 16.
And then like Simon, who's like obviously like older than her. I think that was all purposefully done. But I think like seeing Daphne in this light, it's meant to show like how innocent she was and how experienced Simon was, because they did say that he was a rake, you know. So he knows everything there is to deal with about sexuality. And then we have to remember that they're not being educated like how we're being educated to this day, because we know like how babies are made,
and not just how babies are made. Like, we are more knowledgeable on consensual and non-consensual sex, you know, like. All of that comes with being educated on this topic, and she was not at all.
So we get to like Daphne and Simon, like after they're like trapped into, well, they both think that they trapped each other into marrying each other. Yeah, so after, like, you know, he denies wanting to marry her, Anthony wanting to duel again. This is like the second time he wants to duel, by the way, in the series. And this is when Simon says that he cannot have children. He didn't say he didn't want to have children. He said he cannot have children. He cannot give her children, right?
Yeah.
So
she took that as meaning, well, he has
like he's physically incapable, exactly, of having kids.
Having children.
Yes.
Yeah. And that is exactly like how
innocent she was.
Yeah, and not just that, but like how he expressed it. Anybody would think that, like, I can't have children, you know? Yeah. It makes it seem like, okay, well, I you know, I can't have children. And in the book, like, he was like, okay, well, that's like partially true. So he knew he was lying to her in the book. So, I mean, obviously she would be upset. Like, this was a huge thing. You knew she wanted children, and the fact that like you lied to her, you know, you're like, I can't have children.
They get married. They were both like upset. Not upset, but like not speaking to each other because they both thought that they were unhappy. They both thought that they trapped each other, like in a way, you know, like Daphne was like, "Oh, marry me," and then Simon was like, "Oh, okay," like a reenactment of exactly what happened. So that's why, like, on their wedding day, they were both like, it was very difficult. They weren't talking to each other. On their wedding night now, you know, so we get announced to like the juicy stuff. These sex scenes showed one
intimacy.
It not just that, it showed one how like Daphne moved from this innocent girl to this woman after she was being deflowered, and then it also showed like two, their friendship moving, or their ship, their whatever it is, friendship moving to a more loving relationship. You know what I mean? It showed, and then it showed also Simon does not ejaculate in her, right? So from then, because we've had like biology classes, sex ed classes, whatever. We know that something already ain't up. Like something adding up, something's not right. Like we already knew, right? So I think that also shows like how Simon knew what he was doing,
and
he
was
knew
betraying her all these times,
and he knew not to like disclose that information to her of what was happening, you know.
And he knew how ignorant she was, you know, like on this topic, and he used that to his advantage. You know, he knew, and he was like, yes, well, she wouldn't know this,
So cut to like them literally again having sex everywhere. Everywhere. They were in the lawn. They were in the library. They were everywhere. Mind you, he's not ejaculating her in any of these scenes because we know what's up. You know, we know what's going on. She, however, does not know what's going on. So then, like,
she ends up having a conversation with Mrs. Coulson. They were having tea and they were talking about Simon's mother, and Mrs. Coulson was saying that you need good, healthy, strong seed inside of you, whatever, in order to produce babies. You know, and then she was like, healthy seed inside of you, you know. And then she went to the study and they had sex, and she was like, why is his healthy seed not inside of me? Why is it on the side of me? You know.
In the series, like she, after she speaks to her handmaid, she knows, right? She knows of like what biologically happens to in order to achieve children. And they go and they have sex, and then she gets on top of him, and he like ejaculates in her after like she basically takes control, right, of like the situation.
I think that like they made it seem like if she was planning it, because she was like sitting down in the study looking at his mother, and she was just when they were like walking to the bedroom, she was just like, and she has a look in her face like, I'm gonna do
whereas
this.
In the book it was like a spur of the moment thing. That's what I read.
In the book, he had just came back from like a whole night of drinking, because the previous night is when she had confronted him. She was like, what is that? You know, and he was like, she was like, is that what I need in order to make a baby, and you've been lying to me or whatever? And they had like this huge fight.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they had like a huge fight, and he spent the whole night drinking because he was so upset because he just wanted to be with her. And he got so upset, and he was so drunk. So then after that, she took him to his bed, and they slept. She said, okay, you need to sleep this alcohol off. And they slept, and then after that, she woke up, and she realized that he was like horny for her. so then she started to touch him basically, and he was awake. Like he got up, and he was like, and she went on top of him, and he actually liked it. He enjoyed it, and he was like, oh yeah, this is great, you know. But then he realized that he wouldn't come out in time, so he was like, I can't, or something like that. And like he was basically telling her to come off of him, you know, before he came in her, and she didn't. And he's like kind of upset about this, so upset that like he started to like really severely stutter, like how he was a child, and he was so embarrassed that he left her, and he went to like one of his other estates, and he stayed there for like 2 months.
Oh my gosh.
Away from her.
I think I think this scene really brings to light, like even back in the day and like today, it really brings to light like the topic of like consent in marriages. You know what I mean? Because like a lot of people think, oh, you're married, so you don't have to like get consent. But it still is necessary. It's not like if like you get married and then your life no longer matters. You're less of a human. You know, you're still a living, breathing human with rights, right? So I think
men and women,
exactly. And also the topic of like men being assaulted, because that's still back in the day, and then today it's still like brushed under the carpet or not taken as seriously. They just like glossed over Simon being assaulted, you know? Like they didn't address that at all. And you know what? Honestly, during the period that it was shot or like it was imagined to be in, they were not gonna address that at all, because these stuff didn't come to light until like recent years, you know.
And this is why I believe that in our time it's such a great, like, it's great for us to be able to watch this and say this is wrong and this is not what you should be doing at all, married or not, you know. So I like the fact, and I commend people on Twitter and all these social medias who are like, yes, this was rape, you know.
that they can see it and like
being,
identify it being wrong, you know?
Without being too critical of the entire series, you know, of the entire season, of the entire show, or the book, or whatever. Yeah, it's great.
Again, like, watch it, formulate your own opinion on it, you know, or like add to the conversation.
Yeah, that's the only thing I didn't like, the way how they like glossed over Simon, his feelings, his everything, and they were just like, Daphne.
But then again, like, my counter argument to that would be like, one, it's being told in her point of view, like mostly in her point of view, so like that's
mostly it was both of their points.
But I felt like if we felt more of Daphne than Simon, you know.
Well, yeah.
So according to like what my cousin-in-law said, they were like violating each other's boundaries, like they really were.
Yeah.
And both of them were like. He seized an opportunity, like, and so did she. And again, both were wrong. Yeah. Not saying they were both wrong. Yeah, so that is our video. That is our deep dive analysis. Not really deep dive. That is our general analysis. Is it Yas approved? Yes. Okay.
Yes. Not the books though. I'm very sorry. I give the books like a.
I am not reading those books. Okay. Overall, I enjoyed it. I literally, like I said, I told all my friends to watch it. I think that you guys should go watch it. Don't just watch, like, you know, videos of people talking about it. I do that all the time too, so don't worry. Thank you for watching our video. Our first YouTube video. Comment down below on like any topics that you thought was like really, you know, intriguing, that you want to add more conversation to. If you want to like explore more topics, expand on more topics, comment down below. Thank you for popping in. Subscribe and like. I mean, I don't really like saying that because I don't think it do whatever you want. Like, honestly, do whatever you want. Exactly.
If you want to subscribe, exactly. Like, you can.
We're bringing consent and everything.
Yes. Thank you so much, and good luck. I'm scared.
Courage, afraid of death, afraid of pain.